Joe Biden has proposed the next steps he is going to take to ensure that workers receive a pay raise to assist with the rising cost of living in the United States. Several lawmakers have already pushed forward on this, and they're trying to make things happen in America. Now, Joe Biden has officially announced plans for a federal pay raise next year, effective January 1st, 2024. Most civilian employees on the general schedule will be as expected and to get their check as soon as possible. But so far, Biden has submitted to congressional leaders this week the percentage accounts for a 4% increase across the board. This is a plus 5% increase in locality pay. He initially proposed a 5% budget average pay increase for federal employees as part of the fiscal 2024 budget request. But this alternative pay plan is the first indication of the raises breakdown between a pay base and a locality pay adjustment. The raise will take effect unless Congress enacts a different pay scheme for 2024, but so far both the House and the Senate spending packages are silent on the civilian federal pay raise, which usually indicates an endorsement of the administration's plan. A 5% raise would be the biggest pay boost for Fed since the current administration offered 9% in 1980. Federal employees received a 4% raise at the start of the year and also a 2.7% raise in 2022. Biden said that the pay raise is a percentage that he will help attract, recruit, and retain a skilled federal workforce. Office of Management and Budget Deputy Director for Management said the administration's approach will also aim to help agencies compete with the private sector for talent. The plan is paying raise for 2024 as an average. Some federal employees will receive slightly more and others will receive a little bit less. Biden did not specifically point to the reason behind issuing the alternative pay plan, but it would cost $20 billion to bring public-private wage gap to just 5%. And according to top economists, student loan payments jumped ahead of the pre-crisis levels in the weeks ahead of payments becoming due again in October. Payments rose to about $150 billion at annual rate, and also about twice the pre-crisis rate. Now, how people handle situations in the student loans will total about $1 trillion across more than 40 million Americans. Now, each early voluntary payments can be seen as a higher sign of financially healthy consumers, but looking closer, Goldman Sachs says the situation may not be as rosy as it is. The surge in payments is likely because a small share of borrowers were paying down principal on their loans before the interest began occurring again in September. Surveys consistently show most Americans are already financially strapped, but of 2,000 borrowers surveyed, 53% were already struggling to pay other bills. Americans likely feel more pinched with the burden of another monthly bill. The Biden administration's plan for so-called student loan help is actually during the 12-month grace period. Borrowers won't be reported to credit agencies or be considered delinquent if they miss payments. One economist even told CNN that the economy will slow because people have less money to spend.
Well, Mr. President, for Congress to legislate on artificial intelligence is for us to engage in one of the most complex and important subjects Congress has ever faced. In just a few years, artificial intelligence has grown in complexity, speed, and power, doing things even experts didn't think possible so soon. In past situations, when subjects like this, that are so complex and difficult, come forward, too many Congresses have tended to behave reactively or favored delaying action until it's too late. But on AI, we can't behave like ostriches and stick our heads in the sand. It will affect just about every aspect of society in major ways, both positive and negative. And on an issue this wide-ranging and important, we must make every good faith effort to act. Congress must recognize two things.
It is happening. The inflation rate is expected to rise once again, everybody. And now the Federal Reserve is planning to take big action to address this major issue. With millions of people worried about with Congress stepping in for a little extra relief, people don't know if they're going to receive stimulus payments in 2023. But in this video, I'll explain to you the most important stimulus check information that you have to know. Because remember folks, if President Biden does send out the fourth stimulus check in time, many people will get the relief that they so desperately need. And that would definitely be a great thing. So I hope that President Biden can keep his promise to the American people and send out stimulus payments by 2024. Do you think he will? Tell me in the comments. Well, high inflation and the state of the economy remain at the top of the list of America's top concern. A new poll showed that at least 60% of respondents said they have a great deal about concern and inflation in the economy. The percentage increased by 2 points for both categories from a poll taken last year. The Fed is already raising its key interest rate by 0.25 percentage points, underscoring the central bank's commitment to fighting inflation, even if that heightens the financial pressure on the country's banks. Now, folks, listen to this. As recently as 2 weeks ago, the Fed appeared set for a steeper rate hike and prepared to keep them elevated for longer. But a startling deposit run at Silicon Valley Bank and a closure of 2 smaller banks and a takeover of 2 other banks has created this panic in the financial system. Many economists, as well as the Fed, noted the bank's newfound caution following the turmoil would likely drag on the economy. The high cost of living is causing financial headaches for millions of people. That is why many states and cities have approved new relief. There is a $5 million fund from which Americans could get much needed $500 stimulus checks. Everybody, listen up. It's important now. This is happening in the state of Missouri, specifically in St. Louis, and the checks are directed at families with low income. The mayor, who was one of the most people affected by this crisis, said that the people in the city and state have already a plan to send cash to hundreds of families, if not thousands, who were going through a tough time. The bill was presented and is calling for the state to spend $5 million in funds that are coming from the federal crisis stimulus package. They are urging the federal government to agree on sending $500 monthly payments to local families for the next year and a half. This idea is for this program to begin as soon as possible, and its approval will go into 2024. Now, the program is not approved yet, but a green light would mean that eligible people will be with low income, who are either parents or guardians of children in public city schools, and it's a great chance for the city of St. Louis to offer support for working families and their children. The Nebraska governor has also made some school aid and tax cut plans to keep on rolling this week, as lawmakers give a strong thumbs up to a package of property tax changes worth more than $3 billion over the next 6 years. The bill introduced by the senator would increase Nebraska's 2 property tax credit program, cap school property tax growth, and eliminate almost all community college property tax. The package represents the second piece of Governor Pillen's plan to advance this bill. The first piece would cut the state's top income tax rate by 1/3 and make other income tax changes possible. The governor said the property tax package would provide substantial property tax relief for everyday Nebraskans. And last August, in the state of Maine, a new law took effect aimed at giving relief to the homeowners who have watched inflation and demand drive up their property values and thus their taxes.
For a bad batch of water. The system then was, paused, distributing more water into the system in an effort to have a better chemistry or a better jar test of what they were producing. And so that meant that the residents were draining what was left at that point in the clear wells. This is happening, at a time where we have support with the state there, at the water treatment facility. We welcome their support with open arms because we believe that our residents are worthy.
There is a new monthly eligible benefit raise. Lawmakers have agreed to provide a boost to beneficiaries. This might be worth up to $200 of financial aid, but some Americans in several states may not be eligible to receive